Some time ago I said medical properties is a buy at around $5. We're currently at around $4.90. We have seen the $5 recently again, we're now a bit below. But now is the question, of course, a lot has changed. I was wrong with certain things, I was right with certain things. I was wrong that I thought Steward was gonna be okay. That didn't happen, as we all know. Steward, the largest tenant, went bankrupt. How does this impact the valuation? They're making huge losses currently, which is because of impairment charges. So if you think they're constantly writing off stuff, eventually there's gonna be nothing left of a portfolio, and by the time they've paid off enough debt, they don't even have any hospitals left, and we will not get anything out of this. It would be a zero-sum game maybe. But then it's important to know what is being written off here. When we look at their assets, they have different kinds of assets. They have property, plant and equipment, which is their buildings, the real estate they hold, and we can see, yes, it has shrunken from the top from 13 billion to around 10.5 billion. So a reduction by around 2.5 billion, but this is not all impairment charges. This is mostly just them selling clinics. What has been heavily written down is the investments in debt and equity securities. And this is where the risk with MPW was the entire time. Not only were their largest tenants bankrupt basically, but no, also MPW kept giving them loans to stay alive. Sometimes those loans didn't work out, and instead of getting paid back, they took equity. For example, they had some equity in Steward. That is gone now. And this is what has been heavily written down. This is the part where MPW just threw away money from shareholders. I thought it would maybe work out, I was wrong, but this is where most of the impairment charges came from. When we look that they sold $2.5 billion in real estate, in the same time since then, they have also reduced the debt by around 2.2 billion. So it's around equal. You didn't really lose book value on the buildings. They had the huge debt reduction where they managed to sell a bunch of hospitals. They sold them much above what they paid for. And this is a common criticism I hear of medical properties just. That they overpaid for the real estate and that it's basically not worth as much. But when I look at all the things they're selling, all the things they're financing, they had a $380 million gain on the sale of real estate. Then I see that they got financing backed by their UK properties. And that financing implied a 20% increase of what MPW paid back then. Plus they even got a decent interest rate. And they still have a credit revolver, which has been slightly reduced recently. If you have less assets, obviously you're not gonna get as much revolving credit. But overall, they're still getting decent financing. Now for 2025, they can basically pay down this debt. Issue is 2026, 2027, they will not have enough money for that. They will need to refinance, but as I showed before, they have the ability to do that. They can sell off real estate if necessary, and their real estate is worth what it shows. The issue is here the equity investments. They currently have 635 million of equity investments, most of it in PHP holdings, 49% ownership interest. I don't know if this is going to be written off. PHP looks stable. They're not at a risk of going bankrupt, but they're not a well-run business. Swiss Medical Networks, that is a decent operator. They're very well capitalized, there's no issues there. Now here's Steward, they had one loan and one pure equity investment. Have also been written off, basically. Now what would be happening if those write-offs weren't happening? Normalized funds from operation around 139 million, which is 23 cents a share, but the future depends on if the Steward hospitals can find other tenants. People said, well, Steward ran those hospitals into the ground, no one is gonna buy them. Well, I don't believe so, and so doesn't believe the governors in those states. For example, a government plan to save 5 of the bankrupt Steward hospitals would cost $700 million for the taxpayer. But the governors are willing to do this because if the hospitals close, that's a massive issue in the community. So the state is going to be willing to help those hospitals. So there's no risk that none of these hospitals are ever going to be re-tenanted. For now, it's just going to be keeping this cash flow. Now, they had to reduce their dividend because of the Steward issue. They made an agreement with their lenders. Only pay out 8 cents per share as a dividend until all the Steward hospitals get new tenants. Until September 30th, 2025. So expect before then that those Steward hospitals are re-tenanted. So from here, we've reached kind of a plateau. All the equity investments are written off. We can see their real estate is worth a lot of money. They're still making cash flow. They're still able to pay out the dividend. Still believe in the medical properties thesis that once the Steward issue is over, that cash flows is gonna spike up again. Debt is gonna be paid down. Dividend back increase. Now, what am I willing to pay for medical properties? Currently, if we take the normalized free cash flow of around 23 cents, times 4, we would come to around $1. But I still want to have a discount here. Still something can go wrong. Maybe some hospitals don't get re-tenanted. Maybe some other tenants have issues. So let's be conservative. After Steward, 75 cents per share. Afterwards, we're gonna grow at 5 to 4%. Not high growth rates. It is real estate. A 15 multiple. Payout ratio of 50%. we would come to an intrinsic value of $9 per share, 85% above the current value. I have medical properties as a fairly large position. I'm gonna probably increase it. I like the risk reward ratio more now than I did before. There was a lot of uncertainty then. Now we have certainty. We know the real estate is worth what they say and more. We know they can pay out a dividend. We know they can get financing. And we know eventually the Steward hospitals are going to be retenanted. What I'm worried about is that medical properties will pull what they did before, where they give their tenants more and more money. If that happens again, I would probably pull out. What do you think? Write down below. Have a good day.